Now the point is we are doing respiration. So there are how many types of respiration? There are two kinds of respiration. Respiration is aerobic and the anaerobic respiration, isn't it? So once we are talking about aerobic respiration, which is here, yeah, in aerobic respiration, the energy amount which is released, it is very high, as I told you. So here the oxygen is required to break down glucose, isn't it? The glucose is broken down. The byproducts are what? The byproducts are, what are the byproducts?
Carbon dioxide and water.
Carbon
And in
dioxide, or the waste products are actually, what is the difference between waste product and byproduct? Out of these two, what is the waste product?
um, carbon
So waste
dioxide.
product is a thing which is waste. Obviously, we have to get rid of. So obviously, carbon dioxide is a waste product. Okay.
Ye-
But we
Yes.
can call water. Water is a useful substance that our body need. But that is actually made after the reaction. So here we will be calling water as a byproduct. Correct. Now, once we are talking about respiration, respiration is a reaction which takes place at cellular level. And at cellular level, it takes place in which type of the organelle? That is mitochondria. The cell respiration always takes place in
Uh,
mitochondria,
yes.
whether it is aerobic or anaerobic.
Yes.
Got my point? Okay, now, and one more thing that we already we know that aerobic respiration has higher efficiency as compared to anaerobic respiration. What is the efficiency of aerobic respiration? Per glucose molecule, aerobic respiration normally it makes up to 36 ATP molecules.
Yes.
Contrary to aerobic, anaerobic respiration produces only 2 ATP molecules per glucose molecule, isn't it? So there is a big difference, but even then the body is going for anaerobic respiration. This is the thing. Why is that happening? Okay, why is that happening? Correct?
Yes. Um, sure.
Yeah.
Is it because there is no enough oxygen?
Yeah, there can be number of limitation. Maybe there is not enough oxygen which is available to the respiring cell, because once the cells are respiring, they need energy, correct? So if the oxygen supply is being reduced because of any factor, what will happen? Obviously, cell will go for the other source of energy. So they will start to respire anaerobically, correct?
Yes.
So this is one of the, so any constraint, limiting factor, maybe the body now, since you already told this thing, you know the limiting factor kind of thing.
Yes. It's when this thing it's in the product. One of the products gets over this.
Yeah,
The entire
yes, one of the reactant is in short supply,
okay.
not the
Yes.
product, reactants.
Yes.
So if one thing is in short, so that is a limiting factor. Out of, for example, we need two things, oxygen and glucose. So for example, glucose in a short supply. So this glucose will be affecting the rate of respiration, because now a rate of respiration cannot go above a certain level. Why? Because oxygen is enough, but the glucose is a limited amount. So that is why it is causing a limit to a one particular kind of reaction. Okay.
Yes.
Now, so that can be the reason why the cells they start to respire anaerobically. What is the basic reason? Secondly, first is short supply, correct?
Yes.
There is a limitation. So let's say oxygen is in limitation. So in the absence of the oxygen, obviously cell will start to respire anaerobically. Second thing, high energy demand. This is the most important part that we have to remember for anaerobic respiration. Why the cells normally they go for anaerobic respiration? Because there is a word that is being used that is known as burst activities. For example, a body has a maximum capacity of generating 1000 joules of energy aerobically. Make note of
Yes.
this. A body has a capacity of making 1000 joules of energy at one time. This is the maximum capacity. For example, but body now need 1500 joules. So, okay, the maximum capacity of the body at one time to produce energy is 1000. So, extra energy, what is required now? That is 500 joules. So, how the energy will be provided at that time? For example, you are going for the sprint, yeah, sprinting, athletics. So, you have a higher amount of energy requirement at one, you need at one, correct? So, body cannot produce that thing aerobically. So, then ultimately body will start to go for anaerobic respiration. You got my point? Anything, any problem? I'm moving next. Okay, so now next thing is the anaerobic respiration. So what is anaerobic respiration? Anaerobic respiration is a respiration in which the glucose or the sugars are broken down with the help without the involvement of oxygen.
Yes.
Correct. So what are the two types of anaerobic respiration that we should know? Okay, anaerobic respiration, glucose is broken down into the products without being use of this oxygen. Correct. So there are two kinds of anaerobic respirations. What are those two types of anaerobic respirations? I'll be just doing it like I will be uh, stopping it here. Okay, this I will stop here only, and then I will be starting with the whiteboard. Okay, now once we are talking about anaerobic respiration, so in anaerobic respiration there are how many types of anaerobic respiration? There are two kinds of anaerobic respiration, isn't it? So one is what, can you name it? By the way, the second name for the anaerobic respiration, please make note of, this is known as fermentation. Please make note of fermentation. Okay, so this is the second name for anaerobic respiration, fermentation. So anaerobic respiration, the definition already you know. Where the anaerobic respiration will take place?
Still in the mitochondria.
Might not. Okay, very good. Mitochondria, but at the cellular level, correct. Okay, whether it is aerobic or anaerobic respiration, respiration will take place inside the mitochondria. Correct? Very nice. So there are two types of fermentations, yes, or anaerobic respiration. Can you just please tell me, name them? Lactic acid and alcoholic.
So isn't that the product formed?
Yeah, on the name, they are named on the basis of the product which are being formed. It's correct. You're right. These two respirations are named after the product which they form. Okay, so that is why we are calling it a lactic acid fermentation. What is a lactic acid fermentation? During the lactic acid fermentation, the glucose is broken down directly into lactic acid.
Yes.
So here you will be writing, during the lactic acid fermentation, what is happening? Glucose is broken down directly into lactic acid. Okay, it will be turned into lactic acid plus what will be there? Plus
Energy.
plus energy. Very good, energy. Although this energy will be very less, but obviously energy will be produced.
Yes.
Correct. So now,
Yes.
so what is the glucose will directly convert into lactic acid?
Yes.
Lactic acid fermentation normally it takes place in higher animals like mammals. Those animals who have very strong systems developed. Okay, organ systems are there, correct? Especially the skeletal system. So now, please remember, glucose turns into lactic. What are the effects of lactic acid on the body?
It makes it tires it tires the muscles.
Yes, the direct impact of the lactic acid is it actually influence the contraction of muscles, isn't it?
Yes.
So under the influence of lactic acid, the muscle, they start to get tired. Correct? So initial stage of lactic acid is fatigue, okay, tiredness, then comes fatigue, and ultimately it leads to a condition which is known as the cramps, muscle cramps.
Yes.
These are the things. So now, first is tiredness. Under the influence of lactic acid, body start to get tired or fatigue, muscle fatigue. Okay, and ultimately it results. The worst form of muscle fatigue is muscle cramps. What is
Yes.
muscle cramp? Where the muscles, they cease to move. They are just become stiff. They can no longer move.
No.
Correct.
So,
So once they
yeah.
no longer move, so this is happening once the lactic acid, where the lactic acid will be present, by the way.
In the cells of every.
Hmm? A respiring cell itself, isn't it?
Yes.
Correct. So if the concentration of lactic acid start to build up in one particular area, so obviously it will result into the muscle cramps. Now,
Yes.
we very recently we have done a topic which was, a blockage of coronary blood vessel.
Yes.
Correct. What is coronary blood vessel?
It's when a fatty acid is formed.
No, 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 no. Coronary blood vessel. The blood vessel which supplies blood to the heart itself.
Yes.
Now, this coronary blood vessel, once it get blocked, yes,
Yes.
once it will get blocked, then what will happen? The muscles which are in front, cardiac muscle, which will be not getting enough amount of oxygen and glucose, yes, they will start, or they are getting glucose, because why? The glucose is already been stored, yes. Please remember,
Yes.
like muscles, they store glycogen, correct?
Yes.
So for example, but they are not getting the oxygen, so they will start respiring anaerobically.
Okay.
Once they will muscles, cardiac muscle, they will start anaerobically, so they will be producing what? They will be producing lactic acid.
Yes.
Correct? I'm talking in terms of heart now.
Yes.
Now, once in the heart, the heart muscle, they start to respire anaerobically. They will be built up of lactic acid, and that lactic acid, once the concentration will reach at an dangerous level, there will be a muscle cramp, cardiac
Okay.
muscle cramp. Once the cardiac
Okay.
muscle cramp will take place, this will lead to heart attack. It can be minor or it can be major. I told you minor will be if the small area is being blocked, or small blood vessel is being blocked, which is supplying blood to a small region of the heart. And if the
Yes.
blood vessel which is being blocked, the coronary blood vessel which is blocked, which is supplying to the large area of the heart, it will lead to a major heart attack.
Yes.
It is, please make a note of this thing. The muscle cramp is a reversible change. What will happen?
Irreversible.
Body will convert. Now, please, this is the most important part here. You just have to remember. This lactic acid can convert back into glucose. It is a
Oh.
reversible process. Once the
Yes.
concentration of lactic acid will, and this lactic acid to turn back into glucose, it need oxygen. Please make note of this thing. To convert lactic acid back to glucose, oxygen is added. With the help of oxygen, the lactic acid turns back into glucose. Okay, it is
Yes.
reversible process. But why the muscle cramp, cardiac muscle cramp is fatal? Because once the muscle, they stop, they cease to contract. So the heart area cease to contract even for 10 seconds or 15 or 20 seconds, there's death. By the time a lot of damage has already happened. You
Yes.
understand? So
Yes.
that is one thing. But for example, if the muscle cramp is happening, normally it happens in our legs, normally muscle cramps.
Yes.
Correct? So a person who is suffering from the muscle cramp, the person will fall down. He or she cannot move her legs because the muscles they got stiff. Then why we are providing that fellow who is having muscle cramp a lot of water?
Water. Because there is O in the water.
No, no, wow, you are wow. Because once we are giving the water, please remember we are giving the water because this water will dilute the concentration of lactic acid at the cellular level. You understand? It will dilute the concentration of the lactic acid. Moreover, the body itself is turning lactic acid back into glucose, correct?
Yes.
Similarly, at the same time, the person is drinking a lot of water. Why we are providing? Because the concentration of lactic acid will quickly get lower from the dangerous level. So person will come out of muscle cramp situation. So normally it lasts for 2 or 3 minutes or 4 minutes. After that, the person start to become relaxed. Why? Because most of the lactic acid start to get converted into glucose. So that dangerous zone is actually being brought and the situation is brought under control from that dangerous level.
Yes.
Okay, now this is lactic acid. So lactic acid directly influences the muscles, correct?
Yes.
We are done with this most of the thing. Okay, now here I will be expanding more upon this after I explain something more about alcoholic fermentation.
Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to this point again. Okay. Now, alcoholic fermentation. What is alcoholic fermentation? A type of anaerobic respiration, correct? Where the glucose is broken down into
Alcohol.
the glucose is broken down into alcohol. Obviously, ethanol. Glucose is broken down into alcohol, alcohol plus what? Carbon dioxide. Okay.
It's carbon dioxide.
Yes. So carbon dioxide. So it is broken down into water and no alcohol and carbon dioxide. Actually, I wanted to do it like yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And plus, obviously, you have to add here plus what?
Energy.
Plus energy. Please add a point here. So now, how the alcoholic fermentation is different from the lactic acid fermentation? How they are similar, by the way?
Energy is produced.
Energy is produced. Very good. Second point.
Oxygen is not present.
Very good. Oxygen is not required. Third, both use glucose,
Oops. Yes.
isn't it? Both the main reactant is what? The glucose, the fuel, energy fuel. Yes, or
Yes.
yes. So food fuel. Okay. So obviously glucose. And how they are different? Lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. First, they are different in their products, byproducts. Yes.
Yes.
So here one side it is alcohol, the other side it is lactic acid. Secondly, in lactic acid fermentation, there is no production of carbon dioxide, but in alcoholic fermentation, carbon dioxide is being produced.
Yes.
Okay, now this is very, very interesting because next is a core practical. Okay, the core practical. So we will be discussing. So we have to be like, okay, some of the bacteria and fungi especially yeast, they
Yes.
respire anaerobically by alcoholic fermentation.
Okay.
So
Yes.
in baking industry and in brewing industry, these two industries are there, baking and brewing. What we are using, we are using yeast.
Yes.
Okay, make note of this important point about yeast. Okay, the important
Yes.
point for the yeast is uh, it can respire aerobically. Yeast can respire aerobically as well as anaerobic. Can respire aerobically as well as anaerobically. So yeast can respire aerobically and anaerobically. This is very important point. So once the oxygen is in higher amount, yeast will respire aerobically. Once the oxygen is in short supply, immediately yeast will start respiring anaerobically.
Okay. Yes.
Where are the two industry where the anaerobic respiration we use? Alcoholic fermentation, baking and brewing. You know
Baking.
this, yes?
Yes.
Baking we know. What is brewing industry?
Is it for making alcoholic drinks?
Yes, alcohol. Very good. Very, very good. Yes. Now, oh no, I'm sorry. Wait, just 1 minute. Baking and baking and brewing. Yes. In baking
Yes.
industry, the question is baking industry, obviously the alcohol is formed, correct? Using
Yes.
yeast. We are using at home, isn't it? So now the bread that we are eating, that is the product. It is made by, obviously, alcohol was made, correct?
Yes.
So there are different religions, like Islam is one of the religion which does not allow drinking, isn't it?
Yes.
So how this baking in which alcohol was produced, it is halal. Once we are eating bread, obviously this is our, we are eating bread, isn't it? Or we are eating cakes, correct?
Yes.
How you justify it is halal?
Um.
The bread that we are making and eating, in that making process alcohol was formed.
Yes.
How then bread is halal?
Because the alcohol is not one that changes how the body works.
Oh no, wow, good. Any other point which comes into your mind? This any fluke?
It's in small amounts.
No. Wow. What does this mean? Small amount. Oh, 1 sip of this alcohol is halal, but if you take more than 1 sip, this is haram.
No, 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 that's wrong.
So it is not a matter of small or big, yes, or lower amount or higher amount. Please remember, once the bread is made,
Yes.
alcohol, it is one because we are making the bread in high temperature. Yes, alcohol is having a lower boiling point. So all the alcohol it will evaporate.
Um,
It will evaporate. Alcohol will evaporate. So there is no alcohol anymore in the bread. Okay, so that is why it is halal. And what is
but
the
then,
role of carbon dioxide? Huh, yes, ask me.
but then the bread, when you keep it in the heat
Yes,
and you get it out, it's like it's fatter.
yes. So that is why my next question was the same thing. You know this word dough. You know this
Which one, sir?
dough because
Yes.
since this is mostly feministic word, so that is why I'm bringing this thing in front of you. What is dough by the way?
Uh, you
This is the
know,
flour
yes,
in which we are adding what? We are adding yeast and the dough is raised. Donut we call it, yes, donuts,
yes,
the
yes,
favorites of the kids, correct?
yes,
So this dough rises. The bread is getting fatter, swell up, yes, swollen.
yes,
How? The reason is once the carbon dioxide is made, that carbon dioxide start to because it is coming out, yes, this carbon dioxide raises the dough. That is why, in the bread that normally with the milk bread or something like this, yes, so it has small pores in it. You have noticed this thing, yes.
Yes.
Why these small pores are? Because through these small pores, the carbon dioxide went out actually, raising the dough. Okay, once the gas is made, carbon dioxide, obviously in alcoholic fermentation, the carbon dioxide will be made, correct?
Yes.
So that carbon dioxide raises the dough. So dough is actually the basic ingredient for bread making. So what is dough? Dough is flour plus yeast, and sometimes we add some sugars. So this sugar is added. If we don't add also, because then because flour is already containing sugars, correct? But if you add something additional thing, then obviously the process of respiration, anaerobic respiration, will be faster, because more food for the or ready-made food for these yeast.
Yes.
Any problem?
Sir,
And
but then
obviously in the brewing industry, we are using this alcohol, the alcohol which is being made. It will be used as a product for selling. Okay. Yeah. Now go ahead with your question. I'm done with this topic. I have to just do a couple of more things. Okay. Basic concepts related to aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Moreover, to aerobic and anaerobic as lactic acid and alcoholic fermentation, we discussed the basic points. Okay. So
yes.
depth of these two topics I will be discussing and while in the next session, yes.